we met about almost a decade ago, and we met in a piano bar. What else?
Of course.
Where do you meet all the interesting people? And we were in Palm Springs, and you can take it from there.
A friend of mine, a lady who lived next door to me, she said, I'm going to take you out to dinner. She loved jazz, she loved clubs and good restaurants, it was good food, and she took me. And so we had a beautiful dinner, and at the end of the dinner, and in hearing music, she said, oh, I know those women in the corner, come on over. So she drags me over there, but she's not introducing me to anyone. She's chatting, and I'm standing there, and a woman says, hi, because she saw me stranded, okay? And she put her hand up. I'm Myra. Who are you? I said, oh, I'm Thom. Hi, Thom Racina. What's your last name? And she said, I'm Myra MacPherson. And I went, Myra MacPherson? Could you be Washington Post? She said, yeah, that's me. I said, long time passing? Yes, and I got on my knees and I kissed her feet. Because,
you did not.
Well, I wanted to. I could not believe it ever since.
He was here for 5 years, all during
I had
that
lived
period.
here, but I didn't know her. I read
and
her.
And it was so much fun. And we became instant friends, like you always seem to always either do or not do, it seems. And it was just fabulous. And from then on, we were just counting up. We've been in Chicago, New York, Connecticut, Palm Springs, L.A., Washington, D.C., and I guess we're going to go to
Europe has got to come soon.
Europe has got, yeah, we're trying to put our money together for that. But we've just had a wonderful friendship.
Yeah,
and so when we knew about his birthday is on the 3rd, mine was on May 31st, and I said, why don't you come to town and we'll have a big party. So that's what we're doing, and I want everybody to meet.
I was born prematurely in my mother's 6th month because she had toxemia and they thought she was going to die and they could never save the baby, but they tried. And when they told my father that she would never make it, much less the kid, when he arrived at the hospital, he said, oh my God, well, she died in my arms 80 years later. So we proved them wrong. I was never supposed to make it, and I did. But I lived for a reason. I'm alive for a reason, that I didn't die from that coma. And I'm not ready to check out. And it had nothing to do with really knowing I was a writer yet, but I was a storyteller. And I knew I had some talent. And I said, give me a chance. Let me live, and I'll give back. And that's what I've done my whole life. But I knew I was a storyteller and music and drama and all that, so I knew I was going to end up there somehow. But when I really started to happen after God let me live, she let me live, and I didn't quite know what I was going to do yet. I'm in college, and a friend of mine said that he told me he wrote dirty books, and I said, oh, that sounds really kind of cool, because I was a horny teenager, and I started doing it too. And that actually led me in a crazy way to getting my first real job in Hollywood as writing Luke and Laura on General Hospital. This was high-class porn. This was like the stuff that sold in the dirty bookstores, and then I became the happy hooker. I think people will remember her. She was a famous madam in New York City, and I ghost wrote her sensational selling book called The Happy Hooker. And I did 9 of them after that because we dragged 9 books out of that. Xaviera Hollander was her real name, and she was very famous. She made all the money. And she got all the credit, but I got publishing to listen to me. And finally, after doing, there was a porn star called Marilyn Chambers, who was the Ivory Soap Girl, and I did her book, but it took years to get there. But finally, publisher said to me, you know what, you're damn good. You want to do something on your own? And I damn well did. So I wrote a novel called The Great Los Angeles Blizzard in 1979, and it was my turning point.
Both of us have these late hours. Both of us write at night. We would, even when 3 hours difference, I'd be talking to him at 3 in the morning, he would just be calling me at midnight, and we both talked over various books we were doing. And then he gave me, just because he liked what I had said, it gave me the impetus to really work on the novel that I'm writing for the first time. And I guess there's a first time for everything, but I'm doing this novel now. And I don't think I would have had the ability, or to think I had the ability, if we hadn't been talking about how you can make up people and just relax that journalistic concept of having it to be factual. So,
and she gave me the impetus to really attack history,
yes,
which I was scared to death of. I studied it in high school, and that was enough. And so, I started reading my biography. I love reading biographies. I love reading history. I love reading her. But I've been afraid to write it. So this way, it was novelized history, soap operatic history. But she taught me you got to be true to the foundation, the real stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And everybody says when you write a historic novel, you can make up quotes for real famous people, real people, but it has to be plausible. You just can't take a flying leap and have them say something that they normally wouldn't. And the one I'm writing is a historical novel, and I'm very much stuck with that concept of having to really set the time and place accurately, and then you can make up what you want along with it. I mean, somebody will say, "Oh, your book is so huge. 100 pages are endnotes," and the factuality problem of just making sure everything is nailed down and who you got it from and why you're using it is a killer.
And you have to do a certain amount of research with any novel you're doing. You got to be able to make this sound real, so people relate to it. But you don't have to be like, you need to be accurate with that, but you make stuff up.
And you don't have to do endnotes, endless endnotes. I mean, to waste 100 pages of paper on where you got this material.
The two greatest words ever invented in the English language is based on.
Yes, but they don't even bother with that half the time.
After I was kind of done with doing soaps, I had enough over 25 years of knocking this stuff out every day. I went back to writing books, and I did thrillers. And I'll tell you a fun story you're going to like. I was thinking about going back to writing books, and I was writing a book on the side of doing the soaps, and I hired a kid to be my house boy, really, and assistant, and he was a good little actor. And I thought, you know what, I'll put him on a soap, because and I put him on Another World, the soap, for one day, because they weren't sure they'd like him, and so we had a meeting to see if they thought he was any good, and they hated him. This network said he was lousy. The producer said he wasn't very good. The Procter & Gamble, who ran the show, said, "Oh, this kid sucks, I'm sorry." So I had to go home and tell him, and he cried, and I said, "Look, prove them wrong. You're now in the Screen Actors Guild for that one day, and you can start auditioning." He got an agent because he was now a Screen Actors Guild writer. He's no writer, actor. And within 6 months, he was on Dallas, and then he graduated to getting a movie role called Thelma and Louise. So Brad Pitt would have never been the star we know today, because he would have been a soap star had they liked him. So it turned out to be like it proves that Hollywood is stupid and full of idiots. And so Brad really started his career because of me. However, what he did for me is that he loved this book I was writing, and he encouraged me to do it. And Snow Angel was the title, and it was my turning point too. I got out of television and went back to books, and it became a big bestseller. And so
working in an era where no one buys serious books anymore, or any books for that matter. I mean, it has to be some poor, horribly written thing like 50 Shades of Grey, and you get a certain element going, and then they sell gajillions. I don't know how to do that anymore. I sold bestsellers, you sold bestsellers. I don't know if I'm going to have another book. This novel interests me, and I don't know where it's going to go and who will take it. But sales are extraordinarily disappointing for every nonfiction writer I know. Pulitzer Prize winner was bemoaning the fact that no one was buying his latest book.
Yeah.
So you really have to say, do I want to go through that torture for nothing anymore? It's not that you want fame, but you would like people, no matter how good reviews you get, if you don't sell, and it's very hard in this market, I don't know that I want to spend the rest of my life doing it. I haven't made up my mind yet.
My next gig is going to be doing a screenplay for the book I told you about earlier, Snow Angel, the one that Brad told me he wanted to do, and hopefully he'll still want to do it, although he may be a little old now. But it got bought for the movies 3 times, meaning they gave me some money and they tied it up for 2 years and never did it. So I am actually going to write this screenplay because my agent says I can sell this. So.
But his agent is my agent, and he hasn't been that successful about selling.
Our Hollywood agent.
Hollywood, and he was very excited about the Scarlet Sisters, the last book I wrote, Sex, Suffrage, and Scandal in the Gilded Age, and everybody glommed onto it with the idea of a mini-series. And we had a producer that was so excited, and every bulletin for a while was, oh, this is really going to work. Then it just went cold, and I was explaining this to a Hollywood friend of mine, and he gave me this priceless line. He said, Hollywood is the land of the long no. They take forever to tell you yes, they take forever to tell you no, and you just are in limbo. So I'm in limbo with that. I was all excited about the idea of having that done.
They get to be such big stars that I can't imagine, what that life is like. But he would call me, and I'd call him back, and I'd get some kind of a handler or a lawyer saying, does Brad know you? I said, yeah, I'm returning his call. But, God bless him. I gave him something, and he gave me something, and it was a great deal. Yeah. 2 years ago, I did television again. I went back to a reboot of All My Children and One Life to Live that they brought back to the internet, but it didn't really work. And so I've been just having a good time since that show was over and kind of coasting along, and I am waiting for the agent's call. It's supposed to be on Friday. Cross your fingers. It's a whole new thing for me. It's a historical novel, and let's hope we're going to sell it. I think we are, because we've gotten good response, and we're waiting for an offer from a big New York publisher. And then I've got another thriller that I've been kind of holding back. Is going to be my big one. Well, I think it's time. I think what am I saving it for? So I'm just having a ball.